Medrash in Vayikra, Parshas Tzav, the Medrash says that the Big Day Kahuna, which is this week's Parsha, the Big Day Kahuna, that the Big Day Kahuna were Mechaper on different Averis. Each Begad was Mechaper for a different Avera. The Medrash says like this: Reb Simeon b'shem Reb Nosson, Shnei Dvarim ein lahem kapara. There's two Averis that don't have a kapara. V'nosna lahem Torah kapara. But the Torah gave for them a kapara. They don't have a kapara, but the Torah gave for them a kapara.
That's it. Everyone's so patient.
One of the Averis is Lashon Hara.
Not everyone. They don't have so much patience.
And the Torah is one of the Averis is Lashon Hara, and the kapara for Lashon Hara is the Me'il. Why is the kapara for Lashon Hara Me'il? So to Medrash it says in the pasuk Pamein Zov V'Rimoin, Pamein Zov V'Rimoin, V'Hoya Alarin L'Sharis V'Nishma Kollel B'Voya Ala Kodesh. The Me'il had on the bottom of it bells. It had bells on the bottom of it. And the pasuk says that when Aaron HaKohen comes into the Beis HaMikdash, the noise of the bells would make noise. Zokta Lashon HaMedrash is Yovei Kollel V'Yichaper Ala Kollel. The Kollel of the bells should go and be mechaper on the Kollel of Lashon Hara that people speak. Now, it's of course questionable. Rabbi Chalan's question. At the first, the Medrash starts off that there's something that doesn't have a kapara, but the Torah gave a kapara. If something doesn't have a kapara, how do you give a kapara? What does that mean? And second, what's this koil? Yovei koil v'yichaper ala koil. So I think the idea over here is like this. Lashon Hara doesn't have kapara. Why not? Very simple. Because Lashon Hara breaks up relationships between people. And when something's broken, it's broken. Right? Once you speak Lashon Hara, the relationship is broken. The only way to be mechaper on Lashon Hara, it's not there's one type of kapara could be a person goes, brings a korban chatas, a person goes and does whatever seder tshuva may be. That's one type of kapara. There's another, and that ain't lam kapara. Lashon Hara is so terrible, breaks up relationships. It's so terrible that there's no way, there's no seder kapara that the Torah could have to wipe away the avera that the person did. But there's one thing you could do. Instead of the destruction of relationships that you did, you could build up relationships. In other words, positive speech, the exact opposite of Lashon Hara, Yovei koil v'yichaper ala koil. Positive speech, that's what the bells on the bottom of the Himmel are representing. They're representing positive koil. Positive koil could go and be mechaper on negative koil. Because just like you broke up relationships with your speech, you could build up relationships with your speech. So in a chanami, there's no kapara of a seder tshuva of wiping away the avera, but you could do the exact opposite of what you did. You did destruction, you could rebuild. And that's a different type of kapara, but it's a kapara. So it's ein loy kapara, there's no way to wipe it off, there's no seder kapara, but you could do the opposite, you could build with positive speech. They say from Rabbi Lapian that, the Gemara says that Hashem came to all the nations, and he asked them if they want to be Makabal the Torah, Esav, Yishmael. Hashem picked their weak point, the Tzicha for Esav's Nus for Yishmael, and they said, no, we don't want to be Makabal. It's too hard for us, we don't want to be Makabal. Famous Gemara. Rabbi Lapian used to say, what would if Hashem would have came to Kollel and picked that one thing that's their weak point, what would that have been? He used to say it would be Lashon Hara. That's what he said, it would be Lashon Hara. And I think the point is like this. The reason why it's Lashon Hara is because their strong point is their speech. Since their strong point, hakollel kol Yaakov, Yedidenu R Meir Obsfeld, Yaakov's koyach is with his mouth. The zel umazeh is the Lashon Hara. That's why their weak point is Lashon Hara. And we see that tackle all over. Kollel's strong point is their speech, it's supposed to be used for positive. The weak point is the Lashon Hara. And that's why he says if Hashem would have picked that out, it would have been very hard for them to be makabel.
But a weak word that is in Gayim comes to Lashon Hara.
I don't know if it's a point Lashon Hara speech. The enjoyment, if you want to call it that, of Lashon Hara is more by Yidden than there's such things over the generations. It was known that the Jews enjoy slander. Yeah, the man, no, yesh
Don't say about Israel. Don't say about Israel.
Who?
Don't say about us.
No, I'm saying we have such big powers to build.
Yeah, but we don't enjoy it for this.
You're an electrician, right? With this high voltage, a person could get killed with this high voltage.
Yeah,
but Chas v'shalom.
Okay, fine.
Chas v'shalom. I've power. Yeah. Now I think there's another thing here. What's famous, Chazal tell us that what's the point of these bells? So Chazal tell us that the point of the bells is that when you come into somebody, the Kohen Gadol is coming into the Beis HaMikdash to do the Avodah, you don't just walk in like we have a concept of knocking, right? You let it be known that you're coming. It's a covet. It's a covet that you let it be known that you're coming and you go in. I think that what it's really happening over here is not just it's a knock. You're coming in with a schus. Your schus is the positive speech. That's the schus that the Kohen Gadol is coming in with. He's not just knocking. He's saying, I have a right to come in here. I'm not just walking in without a schus. I'm walking in with a schus. My schus is the positive speech. And what was one of the biggest mitzvahs of the Kayanim? Birchas Kayanim. The Kayanim had the mitzvah of speech. And what's the lashon of the nusach and the bracha? Be'ahava. It's not stam to say speech. The koil ram to talk to them. Right? We know that the pasuk says Vayi Adam lenefesh chaya. Vayi Adam lenefesh chaya. And famous the Targum says leruach b'malala, a speaker. That means that the Targum is saying that a nefesh chaya means, what's the madrega, the mile of a nefesh chaya? A speaker. What's the idea behind that? Anything, there are a lot of things that have, plants also have life, right? Plants have life. Animals have life. What's the taich of life? The taich of life is a person who has self-awareness. Humanity, human life, is when you can be aware of somebody else. That's the difference between life and humanity. A human being has an awareness of someone else. That's what the Targum is saying. The ruach ma'malala. How do you have connection between people? What's speech made for? Speech is made for to connect people. That's what speech is made for. That's the mila that only a human being has. No other thing in this world has that mila. A medaber. What's the mila of a medaber? That he could connect with other people, and that's the purpose of dibur. The purpose of dibur is to connect with other people, and that's what he's supposed to be doing. That's mevarach asami yisrael be'ahava. If a kohen is just saying the birchas kohenim just to be yotze the mitzvah, in the bracha itself we say that that's not the mitzvah. The mitzvah is dafka to do it be'ahava. The mitzvah is dafka to create a connection between people. And who is the biggest oyev shalom v'roiv shalom? The Kohen Gadol, Aaron HaKohen, the first Kohen Gadol, Aaron HaKohen. That's the kohen that's given over to Kohanim to connect the people together with positive speech. There's another Chazal. Chazal says that these bells were for another purpose. It says that around where Eibishter sits, so this malachim, the Kohen Gadol would come in, and the malachim would be there. Right away, the malachim, so to speak, wouldn't fagin. And there would be mekatrig on Klal Yisrael. So we come. The Kohen Gadol first makes a sound of bells. Hashem tells the malachim to go out. The Kohen Gadol is coming in, and then this way the Kohen Gadol could be there alone with the Eibishter. Such a chazal. When a person speaks lashon hara, what happens is like this. Just like you're being mekatrig on other people, you're talking bad on other people. The mekatrigim, the malachim and shemayim start to be mekatrig on you, on Klal Yisrael, whatever it is. When a person speaks lashon hara, he's hurting himself. Basically, what he's doing is he's hurting himself. So the Kohen Gadol, who's coming with the koyach of positive speech, what he's able to do is able to chase away those mekatrigim. He chases away those mekatrigim, and now there's nobody to be mekatrig because he's coming with the koyach of positive speech, which negates negative speech. That's why there's the koyach of lashon hara specifically when the Kohen Gadol comes in. Just want to say over one story about positive speech, how it could build. There was a yid in Yerushalayim, his name was Yaakov Meizlish. He had shaykhs to the Chaznish. He was Meizlish. Yaakov Meizlish. He had shaykhs to the Chaznish, a very chashuv person. He once told me the story. He told me there was a yasam that he knew the yasam's father, and he took the yasam in after his father was nifter. The kid wasn't doing well in yeshiva. Years were going on, and he was rolling from one yeshiva to the next, to the next. Every yeshiva threw him out. Finally, he thought of an idea to send him to London. He had a friend in London who had a yeshiva. He's going to send him over there. The kid will get a fresh start, and hopefully that will work. He bought the kid a ticket, took him to the airport, and he sat with him those days. Remember, you were able to go till the gate. You were able to sit till the gate. He sits with the boy. He sits with the boy till the gate, and he's sitting there speaking to the boy and being mechazik him, telling him you have a future, you have a possibility, you're starting a new start. He's telling him everything, really, really making the boy feel good. The boy goes off to London. They spoke a couple of times, and he heard that the boy's doing well. Years pass. He told me the story. Years pass. He's walking down Rechav Meir Sharm, and he sees a very distinguished-looking person. And the person comes over to him, and he tells him, "I'm that boy." And he tells him, "I got married to a girl from London. I have children. I'm a magachir today in yeshiva in London." And this Yaakov Meizlish tells him, "Tell me the truth. What happened? That's not where you were headed. She tells me, I'll tell you the truth. When I went over there to London, I was going just to do you a favor, and I was planning on having a good time. I wasn't even going to stay in the yeshiva. The first day I came there, I made a cheshbon. You were so nice to me. You spoke to me so nicely. You sat with me in the airport. You paid for the ticket. I have to at least give it 1 day chance. I gave it 1 day, and I was going to leave the next day. Then again, I made the cheshbon. I said, "Is that nice? Look what the guy did for you." And eventually, I ended up becoming a magachir in that yeshiva.